Welcome back to another video from Skill Excel. My name is Marcus Medina. I will be your host, and I will be showing you about citing source details and turning facts into major details. Now, of course, this is one of the hardest techniques to sort of get used to doing, to implementing, because most times we just want to talk about what we want to talk about. But in certain types of writing, such as editorials and research papers, you definitely need to cite your sources, even on literary reviews. Anything where you need to show an understanding of a particular summarized point, and you did not write or create that point, and you need to analyze that point, provide opinions or explanations on a point, or if you just simply need to show an example or process to the point, then you will need to cite the source. Again, the way to cite sources is by first reading and understanding articles, especially short articles, but mostly reading, because most times we're only taking from at least or at most a paragraph of information before we need to analyze that paragraph. In some cases, we can do multiple paragraphs, but there's still only one paragraph that we are using, and at most, the highest of quotation, at least acceptable quotations, are at most a paragraph long in something called a black block quote, which we won't get into today, but just before you do anything, make sure that you read. I will recommend reading an article one time to see if you can understand it without going back, and then taking notes over a second read, including highlighting, marginal notes, footnotes, or end notes, and a complete summary of about 5 sentences, 4 to 5 sentences, even 3 is fine, to understand the main idea and supporting details of the entire article. That will ensure that you will be quoting with little trouble, as well as explaining when you're trying to write the paper. Instead of trying to write the paper right away, you can write a paper that about a topic that you understand best. Make sure that you choose one borrowed fact from that article and then explain it. By highlighting the borrowed fact you will be using on the paper, it'll be practical and also mean that you can use that on the actual paper, and it will help you relate to your idea. The borrowed fact will become the major detail of your paragraph if you're going to include it in the body. You also need to know the difference between a direct and indirect quote or citation, basically. So, in this case, understanding the differences between the two will either allow you to be a comfortable writer, or at least show that you have the skills to do so and recognize them. You will know how to add a citation. A simple citation goes a long way when you're finished quoting a body of work, so you can give credit to that original author. And then finally, you'll get a chance to understand the importance of the work cited and bibliography page, and how to legitimize your writing. So, what needs a citation? Main ideas and topic sentences do not need a citation. These are writer created, meaning you're the one who created that sentence. However, you will need to cite borrowed evidence or a major detail when the idea is related to the main idea. So these are idea related sentences, but they summarize from the source material what your idea is talking about. Now, your minor details, the sentences that come after that explain or give examples to or analyze, these do not need to be cited. They are writer created and they are support sentences. Unless they include numbers like statistics, you do not need to cite minor details, especially if you already cited the text. You do not need to cite the same text in the same body paragraph again. So, looking at this mock article, which is, of course, a fictional take on a fictional world that he created, of course. Um, but this mock article is just something like an example of what we will use for instructional purposes only. Okay, the world that I built myself is included to provide an illustration of setting and numbers and things of that nature. So keep in mind that this is not a real place or time or anything like that. None of these news sources are real, but just pretend like you're in the world of Iscariot, for example. You're in this world, and the locations and everything are for instructional purposes only. based on a factual event. Now, you can pause the video if you like to read, and we will continue. So, once you finish reading the article, you will go on to take notes. Most times, summary notes of an article can help pinpoint a useful detail better. The information can be taken from one bullet point and moved to a listing page or brainstorm map. It really makes the planning easier because you can quickly see what you need to support your idea before you talk about it. Information that surrounds the chosen idea can be used in further paraphrases known as minor details. When creating a list, create the notes that will make you feel comfortable, but do not spend too much time writing sentences or including words that either repeat or rephrase what's already been said. Focusing on new ideas and details will keep each point of your summary short, and also it'll help keep the points of your listing shorter so that way you can move on to bigger and better things. Remember to use one fact or detail from the article in the paragraph and explain that event, that step, or that reason in the minor details. So this is where I got my source information, the information that I wanted to choose. Okay, you'll have to identify the strongest detail to support your idea. So make sure that the detail matches and explains itself, right? Your idea is kind of like the title of your summary, the sort of like the big idea basically, right? The overall idea of your paragraph. But your source is somewhat talking more specifically about a thing that happened that gave you that idea. So, what are the dangers that the animals face, and how do humans help? What do humans do to help? This is the prompt that I'm looking for, and that is why I'm trying to take this detail here. Volunteers are creating protection zones with rope barriers and warning signs. That's basically what I want to take, whether it's going to be copied directly or I'm going to give my own twist to the sentence. Okay. Now, here is an example of a borrowed line. So the borrowed line that comes from here, I'm just going to rewrite it into a sentence on the actual paper. But on the brainstorm map and the outline, keep in mind that this detail will not be fully represented. I mean, at least fully written. It might say something like, not volunteers protected, because likely humans are helping here. So we will do new nesting zones with rope barriers and warning signs for, we won't say sea turtles because we'll already be talking about them. So basically, this is the information that went from my list to my brainstorm map to my outline. Okay. So by writing this, I'm going to cite the fact, the number, and exact details. Okay, I'm just going to at least put Nazareth Morning News in parentheses. The year is up to the citation type. So if you're using MLA, you might not need the year because that information will be on the works cited. If you're using like something like APA or Chicago Turabian, it's up to the citation machine to say, okay, you can have this year on here. But usually, most times, if you have a works cited, you don't need the year. So um, this will be the information that will appear on in my body. It will look almost or just like this. Again, when you're doing the works cited, you want to create on the page something like this if you're handwriting it. The title, the year, and the website. Okay. So it should look like this on the paper. It can be bulleted, it can be numbered, it can just be listed without any numbers or anything like that. For works cited, they're not really formal. The bibliography option, however, is a lot more formal. You'll use this on bigger research papers, especially when you're working in universities where formal education calls for more legitimacy. You will have author's name, source name, company name, year, title, and website. Feel free to pause, of course, or go back to either of these if you need to copy them down, just so that you can understand in writing form the process. Now, when your teacher is asking, oh, I want a fully handwritten essay, I want a handwritten research paper, and a handwritten works cited, this is what you should do. If there's no clear publishing year, of course, use the access year for websites. So some students will say, teacher, I didn't see the year, or Mr. Marcus, I didn't see the year for when it was made. Okay, just put the year that you accessed the website. Remember that citations should follow quotes. Okay, both direct and indirect quotes are allowed on any type of paper where students may exercise quotations freely. Outside of a typical classroom exercise where a teacher tells you you must do something, the writers are allowed to use either method and not just one or the other unless expressed by the teacher. Take notice of the quotations as they both say the same thing but with different words. Look at the citations and notice how the period comes after the citation here. Okay, so they don't come directly after the sentence has ended. A common mistake that academic writers make, or at least students make in academic writing, would be that the students put a period before the opening parentheses when it should come at the end of the parentheses. Also, notice that the opening and closing quotation marks start when the literal quote is expressed. A literal quote means word for word as it appears in the original content. So try not to get this word mixed up with actual, but and literal means based on what the words are saying. That's what it means. So you might see a person holding two hands to their head with the index and middle fingers curling together once or twice to indicate a quotation mark. The person is literally repeating a word, phrase, or sentence that was stated by someone else. The process of a quotation and citation, whether direct and indirect, is a proper way of acknowledging a source of information that did not come from the writer of the paper. So again, for indirect, you're using a summarized paraphrase. Okay, your sentence is looking like this. Okay, the sentence is not taken directly from the writing. The writer is writing this sentence based on what they understand from that quotation, whereas in the direct version, it's word for word, meaning you're writing exactly what is supposed to be written. It requires quotation marks. Now, of course, if you're reading this part word for word, just ignore this part here. I was working so fast and trying to create these boxes here because sometimes, it takes a long time to just do box by box. Instead, better to copy and paste and then try to write in the uh, the help text, and then of course I left that there. So what I would say that in here the written in the writer's own words is when you're writing your own words, it might look shorter, it might look longer. It just depends. Long text becomes shorter, short text becomes longer, right? Depends on the source material. So body paragraph examples as they appear on the brainstorm map. If your topic is about big-eared elephants, for example, then your main idea will look like this. It will be shorter words. Remember, this is the body paragraph model. The main idea and the details are student written. The major details use source evidence needed in the citation. So when you plan your citations as such, you do not need to put your citations into the model for the brainstorm map. You just write down the keywords. Remember that the effective paragraph has about 4 or more sentences, the main idea answering part of the thesis, the major detail provides, this is the main idea, and the major detail provides the evidence, this is the evidence. Okay, that's where you've read your article and it means that it is true. The minor details here, both of them support what the main idea is, and it relates solely to this major detail. When planning the major detail, keep in mind that the citations are not necessary to put. It's not necessary to put them down. They're not present on the brainstorm map. Okay, they should either be planted in a comment section of a Word document or on a separate list to be included on the work cited or bibliography page. So on the outline again, just a reminder, I do have a video that touches up more on this particular topic, and it's very well sectioned. But just keep in mind when you're going from your reading and you're building your citations again, the outline does not have the citation. It does not count as a part of the keyword count. Keep this in mind. So do not include this on the outline. However, on the paper, it will be included on the paper. Okay, on the actual essay, writers will maintain the integrity of the thesis statement by opening the paragraph with main ideas and then following up with their supported details mentioned before. Remember that the body paragraph sentences are written in full, and the sentence concepts from the brainstorm map or outline will usually indicate a change in sentence structure based on how the sentences are written as you write them. Now, every writer is different. They have their own patterns, their own structure for writing. Each sentence is separated and maintained in specific order dictated by that outline. So keep in mind that the citation, it's only necessary to write on the actual paper, and that's why you see it in in a blacker color here, but on the outline and brainstorm map, sorry, on the brainstorm map and outline, you do not see them in black. Okay, you see them gray here for the example because they wouldn't be on here on my real paper. And now for the paragraph example. This is what the paragraph will look like without the citation added to the sentence. Okay, writers need to credit the original source from which they received their information in order to legitimize the fact. Not doing so will result in plagiarism and may result in real life punishments that may lead to a discard of your paper, a retrial of the assignments, or an automatic zero. Sometimes even you can get experience expulsion from a university, or you can be fired from a company for not citing sources directly. For many teachers in the school, a lack of citation is a lack of paragraph, and a student course may dwindle, or at least your grade may dwindle into lower scores, depending on the professionalism of review. So if the teacher is looking specifically for citations, they'll tell you, and then you must have them or you will lose score. So make sure that here you cite the borrowed sentence. Again, the example here did not have it, but the example here saying paragraph does. So make sure at the end at the end of your sentence here, add the citation in parentheses and then add a zero after the citation has been planted. Remember that only the borrowed major detail needs the citation. The body paragraph has a citation in the major detail here. That's all you need here. So make sure that you take notice of the citation highlighted in blue. Other sentences are not in need of the citation. Again, when mentioning new facts, though, in the sentence, you will need new citations to follow up with minor details to follow up that. So like I said here, if you have two major details, that meaning you're going to include two pieces of evidence to support one idea, you will need to repeat the citation. Again, if you already mentioned the citation from the same source, you may need to reinsert that source list if the major detail is totally different. In some cases, if two major details sound very close to each other and so do the minor details, you probably don't need that second set. Okay, make sure that you use unique major details to express a main idea. If you're talking about your parents, your father can be part of a major detail and your mother can be part of a major detail. That would be okay, right? A parent idea indicates mother and father separation, but they might be doing the same thing. So if they're both engineers, they both work together, or they both have the same company, they both basically do the same thing, then you don't need to separate the parents. But if they're doing completely different things, but they are related to each other in some way, then yes, you can separate them as long as they're doing two different things and have two different functions. However, they need to have a relationship to an objective. They need to be working towards the same thing, but maybe in a different way. So, for example, they're both CEOs, but they work in different industries. And then, of course, in the rest of your essay, you're probably talking about your siblings and your grandparents in different paragraphs. So make sure to create the reference on Microsoft Word. The easy way to do this is locating the reference tab at the top of your Microsoft Word processor toolbar. Then you will also find the citations button. Now, I recommend studying different functions on how to reference work here. There are many ways to cite sources. There's not just one way, so whichever one is easier for you to do that. Some people enjoy other ways than some. So clicking on insert citations, you'll be prompted to insert the information for citations only one time. This means if you're citing a source multiple times, all you need to do is come back to click on the citations. And I'll show you what this means after inputting the information. You'll see a toolbar on the right side here later. Now, make sure that you put in the information that is necessary. You don't need to put in all the information. Some of it will not appear in MLA. The more you do this, the more you'll get used to it. So you can put whatever you know inside the boxes. Just try to fill in every box you can and click enter once you're done. So here we're just putting page numbers. You can put a page range. They even give you the example of the page range, or you can just do one page. If whatever you're sourcing comes from only one page. Most times you won't need to do like 2 pages unless you're like doing a big parentheticals. I mean a big quote, a big indirect quote. So as you see that toolbar I just showed you about, you can click on these later whenever you need them, and then you can click on it'll insert the citation for you at the end of a sentence. And what you're seeing now is that in MLA, once the citation is set, you can just double click on whatever you use to reuse the citation, and then when you finish, you can page break to a new page, and then you can click on bibliography. You'll be prompted to enter in works cited or bibliography. You don't need to do both. Once you have, like, let's say 3 over here or 4, they will all line up together. It's a really good feature here that I use. It really helped out a lot in my college. So for longer research papers and thesis, you can use bibliography or works cited. For bibliography, you use them on bigger papers, and for shorter papers, you can use the works cited. So, anyways, if you have any questions, of course, you know what to do. All I can say is thank you for attending my tutorial, and if you have any other questions about citing sources, or you have experiences doing so, or maybe my video helped you out in some way and you want to share your experience, feel free to leave a comment. If you are interested in my other videos or future updates on other tutorials, please subscribe and follow my videos to receive guidance on how you can excel. Look out for more videos from Skill Excel, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.